We are recording the interview of Richard Seifried. The interview is being conducted by William Corkum and Jennifer Seavey from Wright State University's Veterans Voices Project. Also in attendance is Tom Schaefer. The interview is being recorded at Elmcroft Assisted Living in Xenia, Ohio. The time is 10:19 a.m. on August 9th, 2016. Mr. Seifried, I want to thank you for doing this interview with us.
He said thank you for doing the interview with us.
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. Sir, where were you born?
Piqua, Ohio.
And who were your parents and what was their occupations?
My dad was worked in a factory, and his name was William Seifried. And my mother worked in a clothing factory too, and that's how they met. And her name was I'm going to have trouble with my memory. He says I'm an old geezer.
That's okay. I have problems with mine as well, sir. Were either of your parents in the military?
What?
Was your father or your mother in the military?
No.
Okay. Did you have any siblings?
What?
Did you have any brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have one sister. She's still living. She was my graduation present from high school.
Did she ever spend any time in the military?
Me?
No, your sister.
No.
Okay. What were you doing before you entered the service?
Well, I had different kinds of jobs. I would work, it's hard to explain. I worked for the city park department, and we built a golf course and things like that in Piqua. And then later on I worked for large corporations, and they transferred me out to Washington State, and I worked out there for a while.
How'd you like Washington State?
I love it. It's a wonderful state.
In which branch of the military did you serve, sir?
In the Army. Yeah, I was in the 2nd Division in the infantry.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
What?
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
Do I?
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I was drafted. That's interesting because I signed up to go to the Air Force, and if you do that, you're in the military for 3 years. And then after I signed up, I got a draft notice, so I took it instead, and that was just for 2 years. And altogether, I served 21 months.
When you left for boot camp, how did that go for you?
When I left for what?
For boot camp. How did it go when you left for boot camp? Were you excited?
Yeah. 2 of my best friends and I went in together, and we took our basic training together, and then we stayed together until we went overseas, and then I was separated from the other 2 guys. All 3 of us went to Korea, and that was during the time there was a lot of fighting over there.
Where was your basic training at?
Camp Breckenridge, Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
Are you from Kentucky?
My family is.
Oh.
Do you recall any of your instructors from boot camp?
Do I recall what?
Do you remember any of your drill instructors? Any of your drill instructors from boot camp?
No. If I thought about it a long time, I could come up with it, but
Not a fond memory?
oh, yeah, they were neat guys. They were really tough. They were from World War II, and I remember that when we were leaving for Korea, we went home for a while, and these two tough guys were sitting on a bed, and they had tears in their eyes because they knew that some of us were going to die, you know, and they hadn't gotten to know us for, oh, I don't remember how many weeks, but it was something like 13 weeks, and I really liked them. They were good fellows.
Did you receive any kind of specialized training?
Well, it was infantry, and we were taught to use the rifle, and it was, we figured it was specialized. It was just a regular infantry training.
Was that what you did? You were a standard rifleman?
Huh?
Is that what you did in the Army? You were a rifleman? Is that what you did in the Army? You were a rifleman?
Uh-huh. They wanted me to stay in after my 21 months was over, but I said to the warrant officer, well, because I really liked the Army, I said, do you think that's the proper place to raise children? And he says, no, you're right.
Did you have any problems adjusting to military life, the physical regimen, anything like that?
Well, that's interesting because I didn't seem to have any problems, and I eventually got married, and we had just the first child, and one night I had post-traumatic syndrome, and it was an awful experience, and I felt like I couldn't tell my wife, and I felt very lonely, which is one of my problems now. I get very lonely. I've lost 2 wives to cancer, and the other one, when I fell and hurt myself, she had, what was it, Thomas?
Hepatitis C.
Yeah, and she knew she couldn't take care of me, so she left. And so I really don't have anyone except these people here, which is a wonderful place to be. They're awfully nice. But I've got 2 wedding rings.
So you got a matching set?
Huh?
So you have a matching set?
No.
So how did you like the food in the military?
Huh?
How did you like the food when you were in the Army? How did you like the food?
In the Army?
Yeah.
It was okay. I wound up in 6th Army headquarters in Seattle, and the food there was good.
You got one of the good chow halls, huh?
Yeah.
What did you do during your off time? When you weren't working?
I walked through Seattle and looked the place over. They were, I can't recall it now, I could later on, there's some sort of harassment. Oh, I know. The first time we got out of camp in Seattle, I went to a place with the guys, and I bought a bottle of booze, and as I came out of the place where I bought it, there was a captain and a couple of guys, and they stood in front of me and stopped me, and they asked me what I was doing, and I said, I had this stuff in my pocket, and I said, well, I'm getting ready to go back to camp, and he said, well, let me see that bottle. If it's open, you're in trouble. So it wasn't open. So I went to, caught a bus and went back to camp. I got out of the bus and there he was waiting for me, still checking. So what I did with it was I hid it in a bunch of shrubbery. And a couple of days later I said to a friend, we were out walking, and I said, would you like to have a drink? He says, what? I said, would you like to have a drink? And I said, come on over here. And I got the thing out and had a drink.
Aside from Washington, where did you serve, sir?
And where was it? I served in.
I don't remember specific place in Korea, but
Yeah, I was in Korea and Japan for a short time, and then I was in, oh heck, not Seattle, but what's the other town over there?
Portland?
Huh?
Was it Portland?
Huh?
Portland?
I don't know, it was good duty anyway.
Nah. Well, what made it good duty?
Well, I worked in 6th Army headquarters, and half of the people there were civilians, and I had, contrary to what some places were, the people I worked with were very intelligent. And so I liked working with them because we helped other people that needed help, that were being rotated to another station and stuff. That was really a good deal.
What do you remember about Korea, sir?
It was a beautiful place. The only thing wrong with it was the darn people kept shooting at us.
Do you remember any of your platoon mates from Korea?
Any of my what?
Did you make friends with any of the people in your platoon while you were in Korea?
My friends in Korea? If I thought a real long time, I could, but I can't right now. I had, probably 4 guys that I was real good friends with, and I can't remember their names. It was too long ago, sir.
Any good memories of Korea? Any bad memories of Korea? Anything you can remember?
I have some bad memories of Korea. We were walking a long ways and I couldn't keep up and I had to lie down, and everybody went past me and I was just lying there, and there were North Koreans in the area, and that was kind of disturbing.
I can see
But
that.
I had some good memories too.
Like what, sir?
Well, I can't recall right now, but I know my feelings about Korea are good, and I would like to go back someday. The North Koreans were really brutal people, really cruel, and they would capture somebody and tie their hands behind their back and shoot them. But when the Chinese came in, the Chinese were real gentlemen, and they would, if they caught you and you were wounded, they would treat you until they could get you to an aid station on our side, and then they would turn us in there. So the Chinese were really nice people. It was just that the North Koreans were so trained that they were just really cruel. I remember one time they were down below us during the night. The next day we heard that they had captured some of our people, and my squad went over to where they were, and they had, the North Koreans had caught 4 of our people, and they had tied their hands behind them and shot them. And so that was right when I first got there, and I couldn't understand it, because when the word was out that the North Koreans were there, my friends would just shake. They were so scared, you know. But when the Chinese were there, it wasn't that way at all. So I have a high regard of the Chinese.
Did you see a lot of combat in Korea?
Huh?
Did you see a lot of combat in Korea?
Well, I wasn't there very long. I was just there a few weeks, and yeah, I saw combat, and I have good memories and bad memories of it. I remember I was able to capture this one guy, and he jumped up in front of me about from here to the wall, and he had all these automatic weapons, and I went like this because I was afraid my friends would kill him, and he finally caught on and dropped him, and so that makes me feel good because I saved this kid's life. And but I shot some people too. But that's the way it is. You haven't heard all of this, have you?
I've heard most of it.
Have you?
Did you ever stay in touch with any of the people that you served with?
What?
Did you stay in touch with anyone that you served with?
Yes, I did. I stayed in touch with them when I was got out of the hospital, and I was reassigned to oh shoot, my mind's going again. But yeah, I kept in touch with people, and I went and visited them and stuff. And the one guy he was from Hollywood, and he knew some of the actors and stuff, and that was fun. I'd go visit him, and I was going down to see them when a big earthquake occurred the day before I went down, and that was interesting because when we got there, if I thought of it, I could give you the name, but it's, you know, and I got down there and there was this crack running along because of the earthquake, and that was pretty interesting.
While you were serving, how did you stay in touch with family and friends?
Keep in touch.
Yeah, with home.
Letters.
Did you do a lot of letter writing?
Yeah. I was in love with a girl in Dayton, Ohio, and I wrote her every day. And then when I got back to Dayton, why, I found out it didn't work. But shortly after I met the lady that I married then the first time.
You were still were you still in the military when you got married the first time?
What's that?
Were you still in the Army when you got married the first time?
Married the first time in the military?
No, I was out of the military when I got married.
Where were you when the Korean War ended?
You know what?
Where were you when the war ended?
I was a civilian. I was working for a corporation, and we we were inspectors, and we inspected the propellers on airplanes, and I did that for quite a few years out of Vandalia, Ohio, and then they transferred me out to the West Coast, and I did a little bit of that there. But my first wife, we had 5 children, and we just didn't get along. I can remember going in a room where my girls usually sat and lie on the bed and on the floor and cry. I was so distraught. And so finally I went for some guidance, and they were really helpful, and they finally helped me realize that I should leave, and I did. And by that time I met my second wife, Jean, and she was a wonderful lady. You knew her, didn't you? She was a wonderful lady, and we had a good life together for quite some years, until she got cancer too, and she died, and I was with her when she passed away. And then I married this other girl, and she was a nice lady too, but she had been married 5 times, and one time married to a black guy, and she had 2 children by him. She was really nice, but when I fell twice, and I broke everything on my body, and she knew she couldn't take care of me, so she left. so that I could get some help. And I haven't heard from her lately.
When you got out of the military, off active duty, how did you return home? Did you fly home? Did you take a train home? Drive back?
Did I go back to Ohio?
Yeah, how did you return home?
Huh?
When you got out of the service, how did you return home?
Oh, I caught a bus and rode from the West Coast to Piqua.
That was a bit of a long trip, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How were you received when you came back home?
Well, that's really interesting. I was still in the military when I got back home, and the people treated us disrespectfully. They didn't like us. I remember I got out of the Army hospital in Michigan, and I wanted to hitchhike home and get my car, and this truck driver stopped me when I was up on the freeway, and he took me down to Ohio, and he took me in to get something to eat. And when he told the other truck drivers in there about me, they just didn't like me at all. And that's much the way I was treated when I got home. And that's the way that society treated us. I remember too one time when I was in basic training, and we went into Evansville, Indiana, and the people there hated the military so badly that they'd make us get off on the sidewalk so that they could go by. It wasn't, I understood why. The reason why was that there was an airborne outfit that had been in the place where we were staying, and they got a lot of the girls pregnant.
Did you have any difficulties readjusting to civilian life when you got out?
I'm trying to think. Not really. I went to work at Aero Products, and my aunt got me a ride, and we took turns driving, and they were really nice people, and the people at Aero Products was nice too. Is that place still there?
I don't know, sir.
I don't think so.
Don't think so.
Are you a member of any veterans organizations, sir?
Huh?
Are you a member of any veterans organizations, like the VFW or anything like that?
I once had been, but I quit because I disagreed with some of the things that they stood for. And I was with the, I think it was the VFW, and I can't remember why I just couldn't stay with them. They, I'm sorry, it's too long ago.
No, it's not a problem, sir. Not a problem.
I'm 88 years old.
And I'm only 51, and I can still lose my memory every now and then, so you're doing better than I am. What have you done since separating from the military? I remember you said you taught for a while?
Huh? Did I what?
You said that you taught for a while?
Oh yeah, for 20 years. I was in and out of college to get my degree, and when I finally got it, I got a job in Salmon, Idaho. Oh, wonderful place. And I taught school there for the 8th and 9th grade. And then I can't remember how I got out of there, but I did.
What subject did you teach?
American history and government, which I love, as you can see. And I'm ready to start reading a book about the sinking of the what?
Which one is that? Is that from World War II?
Yeah.
The Indianapolis?
No. Oh, well, anyway.
Might be the Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Great book.
But then I got a job in Oakwood High School, which is an excellent school. And then I would spend my summer months teaching in places like, what's the name of the place downtown?
Sinclair.
Sinclair Community College, yeah. And then when I got my 20 years in that I could retire, I went to work at Wright State, and I taught history and government there. And that was funny because the first time I taught there, they picked me up because they needed somebody really bad. And I had this big lecture room. People kept transferring into me because they found out that the professor that they had was really a hard-nosed dude. And so they transferred over to me, and that ruined me because that guy had tenure, and he was really mad because I was taking away his students, and so they couldn't rehire me.
How did your wartime experiences affect your life, do you think?
What's that?
How do you think being in the war affected you?
Well, not as bad as one would think. One thing I haven't talked to you about is when I was teaching in the summers, I would work for the U.S. Forest Service, and I would work on timber thinning and all kinds of things like that, fighting forest fires. That was exciting. And then later on, I switched from the Forest Service to the National Park Service in the summers. And I took people on hikes and lectured them, and I was at a lot of different places that it's all recorded in that thing I was telling you about. I just loved it, and I finally had to quit. They wouldn't hire me because I was 50 years old. And I was out in the Olympic Peninsula, and I had gone out there for a job, and they said they couldn't hear me, and so in a loud voice so they could hear me, I said, well, this is age discrimination, I'm going to file suit. And they found me a job. But that was the end of it, because I was too old. I remember one hike I led, I had about 20 people, and I was taking them up to a glacier, and they were having trouble keeping up. Well, I was too. And so I'd say, well, you folks go ahead and go up, and then you wait around the corner, and I'll bring the other people up. So after they left, I'm quite a character.
Sounds like it. What are some of the life lessons you learned from being in the military?
What's that?
What are some of the life lessons you learned from being in the military?
What are some of the
Lessons that you learned from being in the military. Things that you use throughout your life.
what have I learned
Yeah.
from being in the military? Well, I have a lot of respect for the military, and I've had friends that were in the military, and they would come see me, and it's just that they're all pretty dead now.
So
I had some really lucky, I had a warrant officer who wanted me to stay in the military. I think I told you this already, and I told him I didn't think it was a good place to raise children. Yeah.
So what are your overall feelings about war in the military?
Well, I'm a historian, and I read a lot, as you can tell, but I don't understand a lot of these wars that we're in nowadays, these small ones. They really disturb me a lot, and I'm not so sure that they're necessary. And I have real concerns about the nuclear war and the silly things that go on, you know. Sometimes I get pretty depressed, but not always. I'm really an up person. And with Tom and Jane, and now some other kids being here with me and having this nice room, well, I can't complain too much.
Is there any message you'd like to leave for future generations who might see this?
Messages for what?
For anyone who might see this interview in the future? Any messages you'd like to leave for future generations?
Leave for what?
Anybody who might see the video?
Future generations.
Huh?
Message for future generations.
Oh. Well, take an active part in our government. Vote. Don't vote for Donald Trump.
Okay. Is there anything we haven't discussed that you think you'd like to talk about?
Oh, I'm sure there is, sir, but I've lived too long a life. I can't bring it up.
Well, sir, once again, I'd like to thank you for doing this interview with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing such a lovely lady with you.
Oh, she's the only reason people even do the interviews.